Go ahead.
Inshallah, we'll be starting with the recitation of the Holy Quran. We'll be reciting Surah Al-Waqi'ah, page 536, ayah number 65 to 76.
You need.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لو نشاء لجعلناه حطاما فظلتم تفكهون إنا لمغرمون بل نحن محرومون أفرأيتم الماء الذي تشربون أأنتم أنزلتموه من المزن أم نحن المنزلون لو نشاء جعلناه أجاجا فلولا تشكرون أفرأيتم النار التي تورون أأنتم أنشأتم شجرتها أم نحن المنشئون نحن جعلناها تذكرة ومتاعا للمقوين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم فلا أقسم بمواقع النجوم وإنه لقسم لو تعلمون عظيم صدق الله العلي العظيم
اللهم صل على محمد Muhammad. We all sit like in the front. Maulana wants to see everybody when he is reciting inshallah.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
One more time. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
You guys want to recite with me, inshallah? Nare salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
استاد عمر جلالوی صاحب کے چند اشعار مولا کائنات کے حوالے سے. نعرہ حیدری.
یا علی.
ملتزم کعبے کا آ پہنچا صفائی کے لیے ملتزم کعبے کا آ پہنچا صفائی کے لیے اے بتوں اب اور گھر ڈھونڈو خدائی کے لیے، اب تو اب اور گھر ڈھونڈو خدائی کے لیے، ملتزم کعبے کا چیرتے ہیں کلہ اجدر کو جھولے میں علی، چیرتے ہیں کلہ اجدر کو جھولے میں علی، آج پہلی مشق ہے خیبر کشائی کے لیے، ملتزم کعبے کا وہ کیا مرحب کو حیدر نے تو بولی ذوالفقار، ارے تو کیا مرحب کو حیدر نے تو بولی ذوالفقار، ہاتھ ایسا چاہیے تیرا آزمائی کے لیے، محمد علی ہاتھ ایسا چاہیے تیرا آزمائی کے لیے، ملتزم کعبے کا، ارے کہتے تھے عباس میں سقا ہوں فوج شاہ کا، کہتے تھے عباس میں سقا ہوں فوج شاہ کا، ارے خون کے دریا بہا دوں گا ترائی کے لیے، پڑھیے گا محمد علی، خون کے دریا بہا دوں گا ترائی کے لیے، ملتزم کعبے کا آئے عروس تیغ قاسم، رن میں گھونگھٹ تو اٹھا، اے عروس تیغ قاسم، رن میں گھونگھٹ تو اٹھا، ہر سر لیے لاکھوں کھڑے ہیں رونمائی کے لیے، دور پڑھیا محمد علی سر لیے لاکھوں کھڑے ہیں رونمائی کے لیے، ملتزم کعبے کا، ارے چونک اٹھتی تھی سکینہ نام سن کر شاہ کا، ارے چونک اٹھتی تھی سکینہ نام سن کر شاہ کا، جب کبھی روتی تھی زینب اپنے بھائی کے لیے، ملتزم کعبے کا، ابن ملجم نے جب علی کے سر پتے ابن ملجم نے لگائی، جب علی کے سر پتے اور عرش سے اترے ملائک بھی دہائی کے لیے منتظم کعبے کا اور کر دیا کیوں ابن ملجم ایسے مولا کو شہید کر دیا، کیوں ابن ملجم ایسے مولا کو شہید، اور تھا جو ایک مشکل کشا ساری خدائی کے لیے، درود پڑھیے محمد عالم، تھا جو ایک مشکل کشا ساری خدائی کے لیے منتظم کعبے کا کر دیا، کیوں ابن ملجم ایسے مولا کو شہید، تھا جو ایک مشکل کشا ساری خدائی کے لیے منتظم کعبے کا پہنچا خدائی کے لیے منتظم کعبے کا، گرو پڑھیے محمد
صلی علی محمد وآل محمد.
اے روزے دارو آہو بکا کے یہ روز ہیں، اے روزے دارو آہو بکا کے یہ روز ہیں، سادات پر نزول بلا کے یہ روز ہیں، سادات پر نزول بلا کے یہ روز ہیں، سرتاج اوصیاء کی عزا کے یہ روز ہیں، تم سے وداع شیر خدا کے یہ روز ہیں، زخمی ہوا امام تمہارا نماز میں، ظالم نے روزے دار کو مارا نماز میں، ظالم نے روزے دار کو مارا نماز میں، ماہ مبارک رمضان خدا کا گھر تڑکا وہ نور کا وہ شب قدر کی سحر، ارے پیش خدا وہ سجدے میں شیر خدا کا سر، اور ہائے تیغ ظلم کی ضربت وہ فرق پر فوار خون کے زخم جبیں سے بہا کیے سجدے میں آپ ربی الاعلیٰ کہا کیے سجدے میں آپ ربی الاعلیٰ کہا کیے باندھا حسن نے زخم سر شاہ ذوالجلال بولے علی کے اور کسو درد ہے کمال ہر شبر نے جب کسا تو کیا پھر وہی مقام پھر چست باندھ کر یہ پکارا وہ خوش خصام اب درد کیسا ہے اسد ذوالجلال ہے ہاتھوں سے سر پکڑ کے کہا وہ ہی حال ہے ہاتھوں سے سر پکڑ کے کہا وہ ہی حال ہے ارے پہنچا جو لاشائے شاہ مردان قریب در بے ساختہ نکل پڑی زینب برے نصر بعد اس کے یوں ہی آئی تھی اکبر کی لاش پر یہ واقعہ تھا باپ کا وہ لتے پسر ارے رکھ رکھ کے ہاتھ آنکھوں پہ سب خلق ہٹ گئی پھیلا کے ہاتھ لاش زینب لپٹ گئی پھیلا کے ہاتھ لاش زینب لپٹ گئی اے روزے دار آہو مولا کو غم نہ دے آپ لوگوں سوائے غم حسین کے صلی اللہ محمد وآلہ
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل.
Now I would like to request Maulana Sheikh Jafar, please come on the member and in your Lord Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Maulana, are you able to see folks here, mashallah?
Yes, alhamdulillah. Al-Fatiha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين صدق الله العلي العظيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين.
Maulana,
Yeah, Maulana can hear now.
can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you now, yes.
We are trying to fix it on our side.
I can hear you.
Give us a few seconds.
Yes, clear. Yeah. Okay. Why is this pause? یہ تو play کریں. Can I? Left पे जाइए. Down. Left. More left. There. Play. Hit play. नीचे नीचे नीचे. Oops. Can you, is the volume on? नहीं, there's a mic. हाँ, इसको on करें. Okay, click.
صراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير
पूरा यहाँ तक करें. It's buffering. Can you tell Moana that we're adjusting?
Yes, we can hear you, Maulana, now, but it's adjusting a little bit more. In another few seconds.
No problem. Okay.
सुनिए, आप इसमें से नहीं लगा सकते.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وآل محمد. Now I can mute because we get.
Are you watching me?
You can start, Maulana. We can hear you now.
Okay. Are you watching me on YouTube? Yeah. Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. بارئ الخلائق أجمعين. باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين. ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من يوم عداوتهم إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الحكيم وهو أصدق القائلين: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن الناس من يشري نفسه ابتغاء مرضات الله والله رؤوف بالعباد. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I begin in the name of Allah, the most kind, the most merciful. It's due to that kindness and mercy that we have these opportunities where we gather in remembrance and glorification of Him, Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. We then send our condolences to our 12th and living Imam al-Hujjah, Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, and to each and every one of you as we gather on these nights to commemorate the martyrdom anniversary of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhima afdalus salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we each get an opportunity, inshallah, to go for the ziyarat of our Imam in Najaf, inshallah, and that we receive his shafa'at in the hereafter. Yesterday we began our discussion looking at the nature or the personality of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and in particular, why Ali alayhi salam has such a polarizing nature. where people who know Ali alayhi salam will either gravitate and be attracted towards Ali, or they will be repulsed by Ali alayhi salam. And what's the point of reflection and why this is important is because when we look at our books of history and when we look at the books of hadith, we find that Ali alayhi salam is the most praised person after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. These are in the books of all Muslims. The maqam, the status, the fadail of Ali alayhi salam is second to none. But when we look at the reason why Ali alayhi salam is disliked, or why people have a strong repulsion to Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, there are two camps that we have to look at. There are those at the time of Ali. At the time of Ali, of course it's not right, I'm not justifying that, but you could almost understand why people did not like Ali. And there were two reasons we said yesterday. The first is of jealousy. We know that jealousy is one of the strongest vices that a human being has that takes them away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jealousy was the cause of one of the first sins in existence, the first murder in existence with Qabil and Habil. And so when people saw the maqam of Ali, the position of Ali, how close Ali was, how Ali was the first at everything, naturally people would feel jealous of Ali. Of course, this jealousy is a weakness within oneself, because if they realize that this is actually a decree from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the jealousy should not be there, right? But from the perspective of weakness of an individual, we could see why people were jealous of Ali. The second reason why was after Ali alayhi salam took the caliphate and it was pushed and forced upon him, there were different groups of people. There were those who were tired of the seat of the khilafat already, and so they blamed Ali simply for being on the seat. There were others who were loyal to the third caliph, Uthman, and when Ali promised to return back the favors that Uthman had given to them, they rejected Ali. And then of course there were people who wanted the seat itself, and so when they saw that Ali took the seat, they automatically began to dislike Ali. All of this is true at the time of Ali, and at the time of an individual, you can understand why people would either like somebody or dislike somebody. I remember, if you read the letter number 31 of Nahjul Balagha, Imam Ali alayhi salam makes a very beautiful point, and that is that it is impossible for every human being to like you, because people come with different characteristics. People come with different likes and wants, and if you are a person that everybody likes, it's likely that you are a hypocrite because you change who you are. But Ali was firm in who he was, and therefore when we look at the life of Ali, it kind of makes sense why there were groups of people who did not like Ali. However, the dislike that we see today, the kind, for example, that Daesh has, the kind that Ibn Taymiyyah talks about in his books, and that exists within certain Muslims today, where did that come from? And this was after the Shahadat of Ali that we are talking about. The main concern of our understanding is after the Shahadat of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And this is where we see what Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan instituted after the Shahadat of Ali alayhi salam. That when he began to institute policies and ideas and frameworks that forever changed how people viewed Ali alayhi salam. And of course, we have to keep in mind, that we talked about this yesterday, that this was after Ali had been martyred. This is the most remarkable part of this, is that Muawiyah instituted these policies against Ali after Ali had already received martyrdom. That means the fear of the personality of Ali was so great that Muawiyah took unprecedented steps in trying to make sure that people's opinions of Ali ibn Abi Talib would forever be skewed. And so Muawiyah took very many steps, or different steps. We'll just touch upon a few of them just to give us an understanding, right, of of the fear, really, that's the only thing we can call it, of the fear that Muawiyah had in his heart for Ali ibn Abi Talib, right? After his shahadat, subhanallah, right? So one of the first things that Muawiyah did when he came into power is that he wrote to his governors and said that I will have no obligation, I will not have any obligation. That means I will not be kind, I will not show favor on anyone who talks about the virtues or the fadail of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Immediately, what began to happen is that these orators and these public figures who feared being blackballed by Muawiyah, who feared being relegated by Muawiyah, or maybe even imprisoned by Muawiyah, what they began to do was that they began to curse Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam and his family at every public forum. We find that it became a tradition in Friday prayers that they would curse Ali ibn Abi Talib. I want you to think about this. This institution of cursing Ali from the mimbar, from the pulpit, from the mihrab, continued for 60 years, 60. 2 whole generations of people were those who condemned Ali ibn Abi Talib, were those who cursed Ali ibn Abi Talib. Can you imagine the effect that that has on thinking, on generational thinking, right? It's something that, my brothers and sisters, we cannot take lightly. You know, in Muharram, if you recall, we talked about how racism develops, and racism develops is when somebody hears racist ideas over and over again until they start to believe these racist ideas. Some people would hear that Ali, na'udhu billah, was a bad person. Ali was, na'udhu billah, this kind of person, that kind of person. And this continues for 60 years. Imagine the mindset of the people that they had about Ali ibn Abi Talib. So this is one of the first things that Muawiyah did, the institution of cursing of Ali ibn Abi Talib, so that people would have a negative opinion about Ali. Secondly, Muawiyah gave orders in Kufa and in Basra to his governors to hunt down anyone still loyal to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Yeah, that means that they were given the green light to pursue, to bankrupt, to jail, and to even kill those people who were loyal to Ali ibn Abi Talib. You know, Imam al-Baqir alayhi afdalus salatu wassalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, talks about the difficulty upon the Ahlul Bayt and the lovers of the Ahlul Bayt at the time of Muawiyah. He says in a tradition, وَكَانَ إِذَمُ ذَلِكَ, and he says that the situation worsened against the Shia and against the Ahlul Bayt fi zamani Muawiyah, at the time of Muawiyah, بعد موت الحسن عليه السلام, فقتلت شيعتنا بكل بلدة. He says our Shia were killed in every city. Yeah. وَقُطِعَتِ الْأَيْدِي وَأَرْجُلِ عَلَى الذِّنَّةِ, and their hands and their legs were cut simply out of mistrust for anyone who expressed love and dedication for Ali. They were imprisoned and their wealth was taken away and their property was destroyed. Imagine, right? Even those who may have had a weak relationship with Ali, when you are forced to choose between life and death, your faith in Ali better be strong. Otherwise, you will be amongst those people who walk away from Ali. And so you find that now, number one, we are cursing Ali. Number two, we are killing, bankrupting, imprisoning, maiming anybody who has any association with Ali ibn Abi Talib. Then, it doesn't stop there. Then Muawiyah orders his rulers to forge stories similar to the virtues of Ali ibn Abi Talib to give to others. Yeah, Muawiyah was a politician, right? Muawiyah did not have people straight come and talk about the praise of Muawiyah. You know why? Because no one would believe it. People knew who Muawiyah was, right? Especially at that time, people knew that Muawiyah was this person who only accepted Islam because he was conquered in Makkah, right? And so instead of forging praises about himself, Muawiyah began to institute the forging of praises about others. This is when historians tell us that we find traditions that praise the companions, and the time of the companions, and the senior caliphs, and the promised 10, and the wives of the Prophet, and the influential people. This was the time when extreme reverence was given to certain people that never existed prior. Think about it, right? Think about it. If you bring a tradition that says Ali is great, Muawiyah will say, well, I have a tradition that Fulan is great. What's the difference between Ali and Fulan? Do you understand what Muawiyah is doing? Right? This is something that we have to comprehend and understand the workings of what Muawiyah has done. So on one hand, you are diminishing the status of Ali by lying. On the other hand, you are raising the statuses of others to say that, man, there are people better than Ali. Why are you worrying? Why are you praising Ali so much, right? And for these stories were repeated over and over again until it was considered to be legitimate, until people said, yeah, okay, this is actually true. This is what happened. Like, we have to understand how history works, right? History is his story. It's someone's story. And if someone wanted to tell a story slanted a certain way, they could create a story. 3, 4, 5, 6 generations later, that story would be taken for truth. That story would be taken for reality, right? And so this is what Muawiyah begins to do. He begins to raise the statuses of others. Follow me in what we're saying, yeah? I think it's important that we do not shy away from truth, right? We do not shy away from history, and especially those who we know deserve this condemnation, should be given this condemnation. And this is something that we do not hide from. We're not abusing, we're not cursing, we're not doing anything but telling historical factual events that transpired. Then the next event that Muawiyah did was to legitimize his own khilafah. Muawiyah began to raise the status of Uthman. Yeah. Now remember, Uthman and and Muawiyah were distant relatives of one another, and so he began to pay hefty amounts to anyone who would say anything in praise of Uthman. And so poets and eulogists began to proclaim the virtues of Uthman. Why? So that they would raise the rank of Uthman to that position where people would then no longer question that why was he killed in the first place? Remember, he was killed out of grievances, right? But if you raise his status to that level, talk about how great he is, eventually people will not question why he was killed. They will just remember who he was as a person. And so they talked about his innocence while being murdered, and through propaganda, they were able to link Ali to his death. This is why Ali's name is always linked to Uthman. Why? Because people claim that Ali had something to do with his death. Where did this start from? Started from the propaganda of Uthman, of Muawiyah. And Muawiyah took the steps in raising the statuses of the status of the third caliph, that he emphasized that the Umayyads were the true legal and religious inheritors of Uthman because they were cousins, right? And so he's saying that we, the Banu Umayyah, are the legitimate inheritors of this great caliph, and therefore we have the right to avenge the blood of Uthman, and we have full right to have hostility on anyone who supports Ali ibn Abi Talib. Man, I'm not trying to praise what he did, but the amount of masterful work that Muawiyah did is something to realize that today when we look at false flag operations and we see how easily news outlets can convince people about false realities, Muawiyah instituted these same policies in his time. This propaganda, right, that Muawiyah instituted about legitimizing his own caliphate was such that for decades, I want you to listen to this, right? That for decades, people did not consider Ali to be one of the 4 caliphs. Yeah, they considered Ali to be one who usurped the authority, and that it was actually Muawiyah who was the 4th caliph. This is not something, an idea that lasted for decades. I remember I had a classmate who was studying Arabic in the University of Damascus while I was in the Hawza. This is 2010. In the University of Damascus, as they were learning Arabic, they started talking about early Islamic history. And in early Islamic history, taught in University of Damascus in 2010, when they listed the 4 caliphs, they said it was Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Muawiyah. Subhanallah. Think about that, yeah? The workings of Muawiyah were so ingrained and so bought by the people that 1400 years later, the propaganda was still in play and is still in play by some who believe Ali to be simply a usurper of the caliphate. Yeah? Even Ahmad bin Hanbal, yeah, one of the 4 Imams, subscribed to this ideology until he changed his mind later. So this was the propaganda that Muawiyah instituted. And when we talk about all of these events together, cursing and false flag operations against Ali, killing and intimidating anybody who showed allegiance to Ali, false glorification of previous rulers, and how Muawiyah was the legitimate successor, when you add all 4 of these components together, we can see why people had a genuine dislike of Ali after the shahadat of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Now, if we have understood why people had a genuine dislike for Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, and why till today people have a genuine dislike of Ali ibn Abi Talib, we need to come to an even more important question at this point. And this is where we will do a bit of it today and finish it tomorrow, part of it, because we won't finish. But why did Muawiyah have such type of animosity for Ali? Yeah, we have to think about it. For a person to have spent so much time on a person, especially even after their death, what was the reason that Muawiyah disliked Ali so much? What was the reason that Muawiyah had such animosity for Ali alayhi salam, right? And there are multiple reasons. We'll just talk about one today, and tomorrow maybe we'll do 1 or 2, inshallah. One of the first reasons why Muawiyah disliked Ali was because of reasons of faith, yeah, reasons of iman, right? What does that mean? Because Ali alayhi salam would always, no matter what Muawiyah did, he knew this, yeah, that no matter what he did and what policies he instituted, Ali was always going to be the first male to accept Islam. No one's going to change that. Yeah? While Muawiyah would always be remembered as joining Islam when he was vanquished during Fatul Makkah. There was nothing he could do about this. And this created animosity, yeah? That Ali would always be viewed as the first one to pray after the Prophet. Muawiyah would be viewed as someone who accepted only because of his failing or the falling of Makkah. Yeah, Imam Ali alayhi salam would be known for sleeping on the bed of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam on the night of Hijrah. Yeah, while Muawiyah would always be known as one of those who were actually hunting Rasulullah. Look at our history. Yeah, who were the parties who went chasing after Rasulullah? Muawiyah and his brothers Yazid and Utbah were one of the hunting parties, or part of the hunting parties that went after Rasulullah. While one was sleeping on the bed sacrificing his life for Rasulullah, one was trying to go and take the life of Rasulullah. Muawiyah could not change that. Yeah, Muawiyah could not change that, but he tried to water it down. You know, we find a beautiful letter in Nahjul Balagha, letter number 64, where Muawiyah writes to Ali alayhi salam to say that, look, we had friendship at one time. We were close at one time, linking the old Banu Umayyads and the Banu Hashim, long history that they were existed together, maybe 5 generations up. Imam Ali alayhi salam replies back to Muawiyah very eloquently. He says, Amma ba'ad, now know that, O Muawiyah, فَإِنَّا كُنَّا نَحْنُ وَأَنْتُمْ عَلَى مَا ذَكَرْتَ مِنَ الْأُلْفَةِ وَالْجَمَاعَةِ. He says, yes, we and you were amicable, we were cordial, as you say, but difference arose between us. Look at what Imam says. He says, but difference arose between us on you and you the other day. What day? He says, when we accepted Iman and you rejected Iman. We may have been long relations, 5 generations up, but these relations came to an end when it came to Iman. We accepted Iman and you rejected it. Today the position is that we are steadfast in belief, Imam Ali alayhi salam says, while you are creating mischief. Those of you who accepted Islam, the words of Ali are, why are we talking about this? Because these are the words of Ali in Nahjul Balagha. Yeah? These are the words of Ali that he clearly understands. And for us to understand why we do not have sympathy for those who killed Ali, for those who are part of the propaganda against Ali, because Ali was innocent. And we stand for those who are innocent, and we stand for those who are linked with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These ayyam that we gather in remembrance and commemoration of Ali are a bearing witness, are our bay'ah to Ali, that if we were there with you, O Ali, we would have been with you, O Ali. And we would not have been people who were scared or who would have fallen for these lies that are being said. We would not have been those people who would not stand up with you when things were going away. Imam alayhi salam says, those of you who accepted Islam did so reluctantly, and that too when all the chief men had accepted Islam and joined the messenger of Allah. And so we see that there was this utmost jealousy that Muawiyah had, because people would always venerate Ali for reasons of Iman, nothing else in this point, for reasons of Iman. And there was nothing that he could do to convince people that he had that level of Iman. And so what did he do? To begin to destroy the personality of Ali. But as we mentioned yesterday, we can't destroy, no one can destroy that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constructs. And Allah has constructed Ali, and Ali will remain inshaAllah till the day of judgment. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. We continue with the remembrance of the musibah of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. You know, yesterday we recalled the morning of Darbat, when Ali alayhi salam, as he was rising from his sajda, the sword of Ibn Muljim struck the head of the Imam alayhi salam. It is said Ibn Muljim immediately fled, and people began to rush after Ibn Muljim. Imam al-Hasan and Hussein rushed by their father. Imam al-Hasan and Hussein begin to cry and lament, but the Imam says that do not cry, for soon it will be your turn that you will have to endure these type of hardships. So do not cry and do not fall victim, and make sure that when you catch Ibn Muljim, that when you catch this man, that you treat him fairly, and that you do not exert revenge upon him or on his qabila. You exert revenge only upon him. Imam says to his son, Ya bunayya nahnu ahlu bayt, la nazdadu ala dhanbin ilayna illa karaman wa afwan wa rahma. He says, we are the family of the Ahlul Bayt. We do not exert upon us the crime that was committed by anything more than pardon and forgiveness. He says, if he struck me one time and if I die from this wound, then you strike him one time. Do not take your revenge on his family and on his tribe. It is said that they carried the Imam alayhi salam back to the house. I wonder at this time, my heart wonders at this time, that when Imam alayhi salam saw Zainab, what did he think? Did he think that I do not want Zainab to start lamenting from now? I do not want Zainab to start feeling musibah from now. For Zainab has to go to Karbala, and Zainab has to go to Sham and Kufa as a prisoner. The Imam alayhi salam is brought to his house. We are told a doctor who treated the people of Kufa was brought to see the Imam alayhi salam. When he saw the cut of the Imam alayhi salam, he says to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I can see that the sword that was used against you had been dipped in poison. And I can see that this poison has gone down to your brain, and there is nothing that we can do for you. He says to him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I advise that for the next time that you don't only drink milk and keep that as a form of nourishment. We are told that milk was brought for Imam alayhi salam. He takes and drinks a little bit of this milk, and then he gives it to Imam al-Hasan, and he says, I want you to take this and give it to the one who struck me. When Ibn Muljim was brought, he says to Ibn Muljim, was I a bad Imam to you? Is there something that I did not do for you that made you act in such a way against me? Wa Mawlai, wa musibata. It is said in the morning, the Imam alayhi salam let the people of Kufa come to see him. فَدَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ وَأَقْبَلُوا يُسَلِّمُونَ عَلَيْهِ. They would come and they would greet him. They would give him his salams. He would return their salams. He would say that if you have something to ask me, then ask me now, for my time is very limited. But please try to lessen your questions because of the hardships upon me. Then the Imam alayhi salam saw Hujr ibn Adi. Imam calls Hujr and says to him, Ya Hijr, faqal, will you leave my wilayat ever? The Imam was testing Hijr. Hijr says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, law qata'atu bis-sayfi irban irba wa adramu lin-nar wa alqaytu fiha la'atharat dhalika ala al-bara'ata minka. He says, Ya Imam, if I was to be cut by the sword pieces and pieces, and if I was to be thrown into the fire, I would bear that and never leave my wilayat of you. The Imam says, Ya Hijr, be ready, for soon that will happen to you. And then, my brothers and sisters, Imam tells Imam al-Hasan that tell the people to go. I am exhausted, I am tired. The Imam asks everyone to leave, but they hear the sound of crying coming from outside the house of the Imam al-Hasan goes and he sees Asbagh bin Nabata. He says, Ya Asbagh, Mawla has asked for everyone to leave. Asbagh says, I know, however, I cannot leave. My heart will not let me leave until I see my Imam. It says Asbagh comes to see the Imam alayhi salam. Asbagh is crying. The Imam alayhi salam says to him, La tabki ya Asbagh. Oh Asbagh, do not cry, فَإِنَّهُ وَاللَّهِ الْجَنَّةِ, for indeed I see Jannah in front of me. Asbagh says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I know that Jannah is there with you, but I cannot imagine living a life without you being here. We say salam to our Imam, and the difficulties that you had to endure, and the difficulties that your family will have to endure after you. فَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنقَلَبٍ يَنقَلِبُونَ وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive the sins of our parents and loved ones. For those going through difficulty, that He end their difficulty. For those that have asked us to pray for them, Ya Allah, accept their hajat. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة.
حیدر مولا یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
یا علی مولا
حیدر مولا
مومنو حیدر کرار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو
رائے کا ماتم کر لو
مومنو حیدر کرار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو
رائے کا ماتم کر لو
مومنو حیدر کرار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو
رائے کا ماتم کر لو
لو محمد کے علم دار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو حیدر
رائے کا ماتم
ماشاءاللہ ممنی
کر لو
مومنو
رائے کا ماتم کر لو
مومنو حیدر
رائے کا ماتم کر لو
خاکڑا ہو کہ علی شیر خدا مارے گئے خاکڑا ہو
کہ علی شیر خدا مارے گئے
خاکڑا ہو کہ علی شیر خدا مارے گئے بازوئے احمد مختار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو ماشاءاللہ ممنی
رائے کا ماتم کر لو
مومنو حیدر
رائے کا ماتم کر لو
لو محمد کے علم دار کا ماتم
کر لو
مومنو حیدر
رائے کا ماتم کر لو
جو کہ پانچوں میں بھی ہے 12 اماموں میں بھی ہے جو کہ پانچوں
میں بھی ہے 12 اماموں
میں بھی ہے جو کہ پانچوں میں بھی ہے 12 اماموں میں بھی ہے سارے نبیوں کے مدد کار کا ماتم
کر لو
مومنو حیدر
رائے کا ماتم کر لو
بولو محمد کے علم دار کا ماتم
کر لو
مومنو حیدر
رائے کا ماتم کر لو
مل کے جبریل کے اس تاج کا پرسا دے دو مل کے جبریل کے اس
تاج کا پرسا دے دو
مل کے جبریل کے اس تاج کا پرسا دے دو صاحب بلبل تلوار کا ماتم
کر لو
مومنو حیدر
رائے کا ماتم
کر لو دو محمد کے علم دار کا ماتم کر لو مومنو حیدر
رائے کا ماتم کر لو
अपने कातिल को दिया जिसने के जामे गिरी अपने कातिल को दिया जिसने के जामे गिरी अपने कातिल को दिया जिसने के जामे गिरी कौसरी जाम के मुख तार का मातम कर लो मोमिनो है कर तार का मातम कर लो मोहम्मद के अलम तार का मातम कर लो मोमिनो है कर तार का मातम कर लो मोमिनो है कर कर लो काली मौला 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 काली मौला
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أزور ساداتي ومولاي قربة من الله تعالى. السلام على سيد ومولاي، السلام على نبي الله، السلام على رسول الله، السلام على الرسول المسدد، السلام على أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد
السلام عليك يا سيد مولاي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على أسد الله الغالب، السلام على علي بن أبي طالب، السلام على أمير المؤمنين، السلام على يعسوف الدين، السلام على إمام المتقين، السلام على سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا سيد مولاي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على سيدتي ومولاتي فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا سيدتي ومولاتي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على سيدي ومولاي أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الزكي الولي الناصح الأمين ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على سيدي ومولاي أبي عبد الله الحسين. السلام عليك يا سيدي ومولاي وعلى أخيك بالفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك وعلى أولادك وأصحابك المستشهدين بين يديك. السلام عليك وعلى أختك الحوراء زينب ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على ساداتي وموالي أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة القائم المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله مخرجه وظهوره وجعلنا من أتباعه وعوانه وأنصاره والذابين عنه والمستشهدين بين يديه ورحمة الله وبركاته.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.